gosh, like, you know, and where do you go from there? And that's all I was thinking was like, what do I do? And I just, dude, I would go home and like literally we lived right up against the Ortega Mountains, and like I had to start seeing a therapist because my mom and my dad honestly, my dad was like paying for it 'cause I think my dad was scared, and like I don't think he'll ever say it, but I think he was a bit worried, you know, because it was like, dude, like life is kicking you in the nuts right now. You know what I mean? Like bad. And so like I would go and I would just, I remember I just had to get out of this little apartment that felt like a cave. Like our apartment was like no bigger than this and like maybe half a Christian, Christian in their office right there. It was like maybe that. And that's it. Like 600 square feet.
Wow.
You know, it was tiny. And it just felt like a cave. It was dark. It was depressing after a while. You know, it went from this place of inspiration of starting this adventure of playing guitar into this thing that's just like, oh, I'm just here. I'm just waiting to die. You know what I mean? And it was a crazy moment. And I remember I would go out and I would go climb the mountains and go hiking up the trails and behind my house and stuff, like just to get out of the house. And and then I went over to I was at a party, and I got invited to go to church by somebody, and I was like super drunk at the time, and I was like, no, like you're crazy, I'm not going to church, you know. And then they wouldn't let up on it, and I was like, okay. So I went to church, and I went the first time, and like I went to the Way Family Church, which is a great church. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. It's over here in Marietta office, right above in Taza off of Sky Canyon right there, and wonderful church. But for me, going in there, it was weird because they're very like Pentecostal, like, yo, Holy Spirit's moving in this place. I'm walking in, I'm like,
what
I'm
are
seeing
they
people
doing?
fall down left and right and all this stuff happening and people praying in tongues and all this stuff. And I'm like, what is this nut house you guys have all brought me to? Like, is this what is this? What is going on, you know? And like, somebody came out to me and asked to pray for me twice, and I said, nope, I'm good. I'm not going up there and getting prayed over. This is not happening. And then finally they asked me a third time, and I'm the kind of person that's like, I'll go with something just so you'll leave me alone, you know? And they went up there and they prayed over me, and they're like, you feel better? I was like, yeah, sure I do. You know what I mean? And I walked out, and I was like, dude, oh, never again. But they just wouldn't let me stop going to church. You know, like the people from the church kept trying to pick me up, you know, and like, hey, get plugged in. You need to get plugged in. You need to get plugged in. And I was like, dude, and like my buddy Shane was just a huge influence in my faith, because like he was just a connector for me. He was like, dude, what do? Do you play guitar? And I'm like, yeah, I play a little bit of guitar. He's like, fine, then you're gonna hang out. He's like, let me introduce you to all these guys in the band, you know, and I meet all the guys in the band, you know, and like at the time I was like, you guys are like phenomenal musicians, you know what I mean? Like this is like, I don't feel like good standing here, you know, like it's almost like being a baby agent and you walk in and you're like, whoa, like these guys are making 300K.
They know what they're doing.
These guys actually know what's up, you know what I mean? And then you get here and you're like, no, you don't. But it was just, no, I'm just playing. You're a very smart man.
Oh, that was geared at me.
No, just.
You didn't even know to be offended.
Yeah. See, I'm not that bright.
I'm just playing. But it was kind of that feeling of like, oh man, like you guys are like real musicians, you know, and and they told me, hey, you should come to the first practice, you know, like you should come to you should just come to the practice and hang out. And so I went, and I brought my guitar and stuff, you know. I felt like 8 years old at school, you know. Like I didn't want to open up my guitar case. I was like, no, like you guys have like money invested in your stuff. Like I have this $20 guitar in a box basically right now. Like no way, this ain't. I feel so out of place. And but they just, you know, church has a way of welcoming you in, you know, and the body has a way of welcoming you in and making you feel like it doesn't matter. Like you belong, and we will teach you anything that you need to know, and you belong here. And that was the best thing that I loved about going to the Way. They had a very, very good culture of like, you belong here, and that it was awesome. And so I started playing with them and jamming with the people that were there and stuff like that, and they started teaching me little things here and there, and then they had me start playing rhythm guitar and stuff, and just kept playing and kept playing and kept playing and kept practicing. And then I was like on fire because I'm like, now I'm in a band. You know what I mean? Like,
Do you remember your first
whoa.
moment actually playing in front of the congregation or the?
Yeah. And I couldn't stop jumping up and down because I was like, I better show a lot of energy if I suck this bad. You know what I mean? Like, I better like do that. And like my pastor even was like, you gotta kind of tone it down, man. You know, like you gotta bring it down, man. And I was like, all right, and I still didn't, and it was bad. And my energy level is still like high when I get up there, but it's just because of one of those things. I guess it was just, you know, you have this moment where you're so low and God shows you something so great, and you take one step into walking in that life, and you just can't, it overwhelms you. You know what I mean? Like you can't go back from there.